You got to give credit where credit's due, man. Jon Stewart is a pretty interesting guy, right? And you got to wonder, like, how many of these devout, lifelong liberals who essentially they're just liberal because it feels good to them. They don't even really know why they're liberal. They probably don't even remember what exactly that used to mean. But you got to wonder how many of them are just like Jon Stewart. You know, y'all know Jon Stewart basically hates conservatives. He's not even sure why. I think a lot of these people aren't really sure why. They just, for whatever reason, hate conservative values.
Rather than respecting the American people and having an honest, at least partial conversation about what we had all seen, we were told immediately, these are not the droids you're looking for.
He has a stutter. He hasn't debated in 4 years.
He was almost over-prepared. You know, the president traveled 6 time zones forward to G7, and he was also continued to do his presidential duties. And also he had a cold. He was jet-lagged.
He'd been home for almost 2 weeks. He was jet-lagged? How big is that f***ing jet?
Yeah, so that's about as deep as a lot of these people go. I will give Jon Stewart credit. He's obviously not quite that dumb, but just like Kamala, you know, he really doesn't know quite why he hates the right. And in his case, I think he's having a hard time lately figuring out why it is he even lines up with the Democrats. You know, he's had a lot of opportunity to really figure out what's really going on. And, you know, the left, they almost completely destroyed the guy when he basically said, hey, you know, maybe the Wuhan coronavirus might have something to do with the Wuhan coronavirus lab that's right there in Wuhan. It's a pretty reasonable thought, but for that, he was almost completely and totally destroyed by the left. But still he comes back and he's still a shill. So I don't know. I'm sure he's got his reasons, but maybe the Democrats' actual abandonment of real democracy and their installation of Kamala Harris, it could be the thing that finally wakes him up.
I'm going to share with you a very simple story, which is that I went home one day and I said, well, why are conservatives bad, Mommy? Because I thought we were supposed to conserve things. I couldn't reconcile it. Now I can.
They actually came for him for that as well. And I mean, of course, it's the left. They're going to come for you for basically everything. You're going to do as you're told. You're not going to fall out of line. And if you do, they're coming for you. And MSNBC actually had an article that was titled something to the effect of, you know, Jon Stewart needs to do some soul searching. Basically, they were imploring him to stop talking bad about Democrats, right? Just stay in line, focus on the right. But hilariously, actually, to MSNBC's credit, on July 9th, they actually had an article titled, you know, Jon Stewart tried to warn us about Joe Biden. And honestly, it's pretty funny stuff to watch the machine just locked into this weird civil war, right? And you have to feel bad, actually, for the people who are just the true Democrat faithful. I mean, they are on quite a ride. Honestly, I don't know how they keep it straight, man. First, Joe Biden's the greatest, then he has to go. Now he's the greatest because he did go. I mean, it's amazing. To ask the average Democrat faithful, the guy's amazing. Somehow he's the very, very best president in at least a generation, but he's now the most unelectable candidate in history. He's all those things at the same time. I do not know how these people keep this stuff straight.
For a campaign based on honesty and decency, the spin about the debate appears to be blatant bullshit. And the redemption tour hasn't gone that much better, whether it's been on the radio.
I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman to serve with a black president.
Yes, Queen. Or whether the president is on prompter and fired up.
Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
I got to tell you, somehow, confusion with confidence is even more unsettling. Or when the president sat down with George Stephanopoulos to prove once and for all how cogent he is and to film a bronzer ad. Orange man good? None of this was reassuring.
Dude, that's why I cannot believe that these people just don't get it, man. I mean, these lifelong liberals actually think that this was about reassuring them. You know, this is not about reassuring you. This is about tricking you. They have been lying to you about the medical state and cognitive abilities of the president, the leader of the free world, for years and years and years now. This was not about reassuring you. This was 100% completely about deceiving you. And honestly, the amazing thing is the same people that fell for that, they just roll over and accept Kamala Harris as the anointed one just because they're told to, basically. I mean, it's freaking amazing. I mean, even in his speech explaining to America how he got removed from his own administration, his own presidential race, Joe Biden said that he stands for democracy and voting rights. And these people, man, the Jon Stewarts of the world, they freaking believe it. They not only they believe it, they repeat it, and they just keep repeating it. They just do as they're told, and they do not ever ask even one logical question. And to me, the most logical questions would be, how long has Joey been like this, and who else knows? And if he can't run, how can he serve?
And we're told that the threat of Trump is so great and the stakes are so high that even bringing up these absolutely legitimate concerns about the president's ability to do the most vigorous job in the world for the next 4 years is enabling fascism. Yet even the president doesn't seem particularly alarmed.
If you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
That's not what this is about! There are no participation trophies in endgame democracy. Oh, yes. I remember FDR saying, well, if the Nazis take over Europe, at least both teams had fun. And it's really troubling as this new information has been introduced. We just learned about this, and now we're all being told, well, you should have thought of that before you knew it.
We can't go against the will of the voters. Democrats who voted in all 50 states in the primary, that is who they want to be their nominee.
He's the nominee because millions and millions of people voted for him to be our nominee.
And he will be our nominee. End of story.
Get on board or shut the f*** up is not a particularly compelling pro-democracy bumper sticker.
How spot on is that? I'm looking real forward to what Jon Stewart might actually say about the installation of Kamala Harris. We have to wait because he only works on Mondays now. You know, he and Rachel Maddow on MSNBC as well, only on Mondays. Apparently 8 years into the whole Trump is a Nazi 24/7 coverage. Even in an election year, there's only enough material for one show a week. I mean, how telling is that? But just look how long it takes liberals to come around to just the simplest, most observable facts of life. I mean, it took them who knows how many years to acknowledge that the laptop was real. Some of them still haven't. It took them years to acknowledge that the virus likely did come from the lab that has the same name as the virus. And now they're just now coming around to the fact that Joe Biden's brain doesn't work. So by that same math, we're probably about 4 years from them admitting that Kamala Harris is a complete and total idiot, right? Who will do literally anything that the far left tells her to do, man. But this is where we're at. You know, we have an alarmingly large portion of the population that believes anything and everything that the TV tells them. Joe was good, then he was bad, now he's a hero, and Kamala Harris is the one true beacon to save democracy after basically receiving 0 votes within the last 5 years, right? The left is going to tell you that when people voted for Joe in 2020, those were votes for Kamala. And they were votes to ensure that she could take over for him if she needed to. If she could become president then. They were not votes to become the next president after him. And this is crazy what they're doing. This stuff is wild to watch. And I don't see how it's possible that they hold this charade together, but we'll see, man. That's just my take, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.